Welcome to Fireside Giants. My name is Alex, your host, and today we're going to take a look at Brian Daboll talking about Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley. Kind of some humanity coming from Daboll, speaking a lot of honesty, but also acknowledging the fact that it's a work in progress. Trying to figure out where Daniel Jones fits in this offense, how they're going to build around him, and trade rumors regarding Saquon Barkley. How are they going to get the most out of Saquon? Where is he going? Is he going anywhere? I think Daboll, something that I do like about the new head coach for the Giants up to this point, is that he's very genuine. You hear him speak and he's very personable. He's empathetic. He's sympathetic. He shows that he's human. He's not like a cyborg like Joe Judge was and like kind of just went about everything like it was a dictatorship. And the disciplinary factor that he brought to the table was seemingly too much. And, at some points we were like, that's an NFL team. They're making millions of dollars. They should be able to take that type of, authority. But it seems to me that Brian Daboll's strategy may be a little bit more persona oriented and like looking to people's characters and developing rapport with them and creating, relationships. And as you could probably understand, the NFL is full of relationships. That's what it is. It's a relationship league. Guys like their players. Look at Jabril Peppers, just went to this, the New England Patriots, where Joe Judge is back now coaching the special teams, or kind of an assistant offensive role actually. So when you're looking at Saquon Barkley specifically, he's been the kind of one of those players this offseason, along with James Bradbury, who have been heavily connected to potential trades. Now, do the Giants trade Saquon Barkley? That's up for discussion. Some people think yes, some say no. When you look at Saquon Barkley objectively, what is he going to offer the team now? He's going to really take up a lot of cap space, $7.2 million. What could the Giants get from him? Well, Joe Shane said a couple days ago that teams actually have been calling regarding Saquon. So there is value to be had when it comes to Saquon and trading him, but where does his actual value stand? Why would the Giants want to keep Barkley around? The only logical explanation I have for that is because of Daniel Jones, right? Daniel Jones, they're clearly still believe that he can be the guy, he can be the franchise quarterback for the New York Giants. And why would you get rid of one of his best weapons when you want him to be the best he can possibly be? Barkley can make Daniel Jones look better. He can make Daniel Jones look good. Having a back as talented as him when he's healthy is extremely beneficial. He has chemistry with Jones, who's going into his fourth season. And I think that's kind of the main logic that I can wrap my head around, the main points that, makes sense for Barkley, staying on this team rather than being traded and just saving the $7.2 million, allocating it towards the offensive line. And you could also make the argument that building the offensive line, investing $7.2 million more into it would be more beneficial than having a running back, because the Giants could go out and they've had a lot of interest in Georgia, scat back James Cook, who is a really nice player. He's a great receiver. He's a pretty shifty back. He can do a lot of things. I think he'd be a really good, passing down RB and a guy who can really change the pace. He's really shifty and quick, and I like his style. But I do think another guy like Iowa State's Breece Hall, who's a legitimate workhorse, patient, one-cut, downhill runner. He runs with power, patience, and he has like these different traits, kind of like a Jonathan Taylor / Le'Veon Bell with patience type of style. Not saying he is those guys whatsoever, but I do think that he is capable into the right system and scheme to be a phenomenal running back. So there are guys I really like in this draft who could replace Saquon Barkley without much downside. I think that the Giants could go that direction, and for the matter, Barkley could still be traded, which I think is totally fair to consider. But this is what Daboll had to say about Barkley and essentially all the rumors circulating about him. He said, when things come out, I try to stay on top of it. I have kids that are 22 and 21 years old. They're people first. It's important to show a little empathy to the guys in the situation they're in. I know it's a tough business, but I think it's a people's business too. So I really, really appreciate the fact that Daboll's being kind of a human in this instance. Judge kind of, I guess, to the media did not present that same type of empathetic nature. He was rather very strict, dictator-esque, authoritarian, and I think that some of the players were rubbed the wrong way because of it, and clearly nobody really was upset about his departure. And, now you're looking at Daboll, total opposite. And shout out to management for understanding, or really ownership to understand that the team needed an offensive guru. And not only did they go and get Daboll, they got Mike Kafka as well. So they did a really good job in investing in the coaching staff to help the players, because the players are only as good as the coaches. And we know this from experience watching the Giants over the past few years. But another thing Daboll said, and this is about Daniel Jones. Now, Daniel Jones, obviously sixth overall pick back in 2019. He's got some mobility. He's got some good arm talent, but he has been ruined for the most part. Why? Because the coaching staff has run him into the ground. Poor offensive schemes, poor blocking protection schemes, and, everything that goes into that makes the quarterback look bad. So that's not to say that Jones doesn't have his own negatives. Of course, he has issues with staring down receivers. He makes bad decisions. He can't protect. He protects the football very poorly. There are a lot of cons to his game, but there are some positives that I think they could extrapolate on. And we saw that against the Saints last year. If you watch that Saints game last year, Daniel Jones looked like a franchise quarterback. He was slinging the ball. He was confident. He had time in the pocket. And that's probably what management went and looked at and said, hey, man, if you get this guy some time in the pocket, that was one of the best games the offensive line has played in probably 3-4 years since he's been on the team. And when you look at that game and you say, wait a second, he had a lot of time in the pocket. And the Saints are no joke. They had a decent defense. It's pretty damn impressive what you can get out of a quarterback when he actually is able to maximize on his talents. Now, he lost a lot of momentum, from the injuries and all this, and he's trying to supplement with running the football. I like what Brian Daboll had to say about Daniel Jones and really, kind of pushing past his concerns. And he said, he's athletic, he's big, he's strong. I know he's had some injuries. It's always a balancing act. At the end of the day, you've got to try to use your players the best way you can. Use them to try to win a game. Sometimes it might not start early in the season like that, but as you figure out what you are and what you need to do, you can evolve to that. And I think that they've done that perfectly with Josh Allen. He went on to say, with Josh, how many quarterback runs did we really run him by design? Probably more a little bit later in the year, but when it was crunch time, that's knowing the player too. Where a guy wants the ball in his hands is the most critical moments of the game, and you can count on him to do that. We'll find out with Daniel. I think he's a really, really good skill set in that regard. How much of it will do, you never know. So he's talking specifically about running the football. How much are they going to run Daniel Jones, designed or otherwise? He's been really good in terms of the zone read, but I don't think he's the same runner whatsoever as Josh Allen. That would be a reach. Josh Allen is powerful. He's agile. Daniel Jones is a great straight line runner. He's not very good at making guys miss in the open field. We've seen him kind of take a lot of hits. He's not a safe runner by any means. He holds the ball like it's a whiff, like he's holding a cantaloupe or something. It's kind of crazy, but I really hope to see that Daniel Jones is used properly. I think that we know DJ is a good runner. What we don't know is if he's a consistent passer. His completion percentage has gone up, continuously to 64% this past year, but ultimately that's because they were throwing the ball so short so often. We need to see more downfield attempts. We need to see him capitalizing on broken coverages. He missed throws last year. That cannot happen. And when we're looking at Daniel Jones and how you're going to use him, I don't know if the Giants have enough time to properly evaluate him. Josh Allen took 3 years to become the quarterback he is today. The Giants have 1 season to figure out what Daniel Jones is under a new scheme, third offensive coordinator, third head coach. Is that enough time? Honestly, I'm not sure. And I can't sit here and tell you that I think it is enough time, but he does have the skills. I wish we could reset his entire career. I think he could be great with the right coaching. The problem is we have the good coaching now, and we don't know if we have enough time to make him that good. So 5th-year option, that decision coming up on May 2nd. A lot of big questions regarding what he can do this season, how the Giants are going to deploy this scheme, what they're going to build around. So I'm really interested to see what they do. And Brian Daboll and Mike Kafka can conjure up and see what players really want to run, because it seems like they're incorporating a lot of their opinions as well, which is pretty exciting. But I'm excited to hear you guys have to think about Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley. Do you think that Daniel Jones can succeed? Do you think Saquon Barkley should be traded? Do you think Brian Daboll, what he's saying makes a lot of sense? I love the humility. I love the genuine responses. He sounds like a guy who's creating really good relationships. He sounds like a guy who cares about the players and is reaching out to them and creating relationships, which I think is super, super, super important. And it's done really well for him in the past, especially with Buffalo. So hopefully it continues to work and that strategy succeeds with the New York Football Giants. But guys, I appreciate you tuning into Fireside Giants. As always, make sure to like and subscribe below, and I will catch you guys on the next episode.